So essentially, I am only awareness. The rest is the data, the understanding I develop through my equipment, the body-mind complex. So this understanding comes to us as we go on penetrating into Vedanta. Essentially, getting to know ourselves from within, penetrating into the very depths of our being. So self-knowledge, Atma Bodh, will help us do that. And so it is a very important text to concentrate upon fully. If we concentrate upon a text like this, after some time you will see your entire thought process becomes very Vedantic, becomes very, very clear, and you understand things from within, as it were. You understand fundamentally you are aware, whether there are thoughts in that awareness or not. Awareness always is, awareness persists, and that is the real I. So to come to this originally by oneself, for this to become an experience in our own system, that is why the Vedantic process. And this text will help lead us to this. So Vedanta is about tracking the essential nature of the human being, what we are calling the human being, the real I, the unchanging element in you. In order to achieve this end, there are fourfold qualifications which are expected of the spiritual aspirant. So this is also a very important part of understanding Vedanta. Because if we are not particular about these qualifications, we will get a precious little out of this volume of knowledge. So the qualifications, I think you are quite familiar with: viveka, vairagya, shat, sampat, and mumukshutva. So briefly, we will just discuss this before we enter into the text. Viveka is the faculty of what we call discrimination. You see, in Indic language, we usually use the word discrimination. It actually means strong, acute discretion, ability to separate the eternal from the non-eternal. So ability to do this in one's own mind, to understand clearly what is changing, what is unchanging, what is temporary, what is permanent, what underlies what, and to effectively separate the eternal from the non-eternal, the unreal from the real. This is what Vivek does. So this is a fundamental prerequisite, a qualification for entering into Vedanta. It involves great clarity of mind, because Vivek will not come and stabilize itself if the mind is not calm and clear. If the mind is too busy with objects, if the mind is restless, if the mind does not have sustained focus, then Vivek will not stand for a long time. It's just another thought. Vivek is not just another thought. It is a concentrated thought that condenses into a conviction and a very solid sense of discrimination between the real and the unreal. So this is the primary qualification expected of an aspirant after Vedanta, the knowledge of Vedanta. The second qualification required is vairagya, which means a certain level of detachment from objects, from the senses. Now, if there is real vivek, there will be vairagya. The two go together. Because once you know the truth about something, obviously you know which course of action to take. So, vairagya depends upon vivek. If there is very clear sense of discrimination, definitely there will be vairagya. There will be a certain inward detachment from merely the senses, from mere body consciousness, from mere mental activity. This comes naturally. So vairagya is not about donning a Geruva robe and going somewhere to the Himalayas or something. It is about detachment of mind, inner detachment of will from everything that is not me, so that I can track the real me, so that I can penetrate into the real I. I naturally disconnect from what is not I. It starts with the world of objects. It proceeds to body consciousness. So you deny that also. That is not the real I. That is a changing instrument I am using in order to function in this world. But that is not me. Vairagya proceeds further to the will, and the intellect. So it helps you detach step by step from all of these, and finally from the entire mind, and that is how you penetrate into the self. So viveka and vairagya are twin disciplines which are absolutely required in order to get the experience that Vedanta is talking about. The third requirement is what is called shat This is a group of 6 treasures. Sampati means treasure. Shat is 6. A group of 6 treasures which are also required for the mind to enter into the realm of Vedanta. The first amongst these disciplines is shama, which is deep inner calmness. You see, a very noble mind is always calm. A mind which has good sanskars, good predispositions, good tendencies, is calm like a lake. So this makes the inner penetration possible. So shama is an important sampati, a treasure for the inner life. After that is dama. Dama is self-control, which means ability to control this entire equipment through which we are functioning. Starting with the body, starting with the mind, will, thought, emotion, being able to exercise control over these. This constitutes self-control. So that we remain focused on our goals, so that our energies don't get dissipated into something which we do not want. They don't go in a direction which we don't want to go in. For this simple reason, it is required to exercise dama, self-control, controlling this equipment in a way that it becomes conducive to our higher goals, conducive to the realization of Vedanta. This is the discipline of dama. After that is uparati. Uparati is another important discipline in which you make sure that the sense organs do not turn back and move towards sense objects. As a result of shama and dama, great inner calmness and self-control, you make sure that the sense organs do not turn towards sense objects. Because if they do that, the mind will not turn inward. If the mind has to turn inward, all of your faculties have to turn a little inward. Then only this inner research is possible. And that is why this discipline is inculcated. It is insisted upon. After uparati is titiksha. Titiksha is great forbearance. Ability to bear everything. Because we are on a path which is very elevating, which is very great. So I am able to bear any obstacle that comes on the way. I don't break down. I don't get restless and I don't disturb myself. This discipline is very important in order to handle the dualities of life. Many times you see we get caught up with them. For the simple reason, titiksha, sahanam sarva dukkhanam apratikara purvakam chinta vilaparahitam. This is how it is defined, which means bearing with all the dualities of life without worry and without sorrow. Which means keeping the mind in a steady state of deep inner aspiration and inquiry, no matter what your outer situations are. So if this one discipline is there, all our complaining and groaning and moaning will stop. We will know that we are in a situation where we can pursue this knowledge just if we have this one quality, titiksha, ability to bear with everything without reacting. At the most, you can respond wherever it is required, but not react and bear with everything. Holy Mother Shri Shraddha Devi always insisted upon this discipline. So this is titiksha. After this is shraddha. Shraddha is a deep inner faith or affirmative tendency of the mind. Not a cynical, skeptical attitude. Because that simply wastes your thought and emotional energies. So a very focused, actually the definition given by Shankaracharya for shraddha is very beautiful. He says astikya buddhi, which means the affirmative sense that the understanding of isness, asti, So it's a sense of affirmation in your mind. So the sense of faith in the Vedanta, in the scriptures, in the teacher. This faith comes naturally if you are deeply aspiring after the goal. You can't but have this. It is not a blind kind of faith. It's a intellectually enlightened, affirmative kind of faith which takes you forward. The readiness of the mind to accept spiritual truth, to see things as they are. This is shraddha. So this discipline is absolutely required. All of these disciplines are indispensable to this spiritual path. Then we have samadhana. Samadhana has different meanings, but the meaning which Nikhilananji Maharaj gives is it is supreme concentration on the goal. If you want something, you see, naturally you will remain focused on it, riveted on it. So samadhana is the ability to do that. You don't have to be told to pursue spiritual practice. You will do it anyway. You can't but do it because that's your goal. So if genuinely, deeply from within, if we have felt the need to know the real I, to know existence as it is, to know the truth about this existence, I will consciously cultivate all of these qualities within myself. This is how we mark a spiritual aspirant, one who is deeply ingrained with these values, with these virtues. He is fit for Vedantic knowledge. If I am lacking something, I can always cultivate it, practice it, think about it repeatedly, so you create the vrittis required. When you repeat the vrittis, they become sanskars. This is the way you can create the quality in your mind. And unless we are well established in these qualities, it is difficult to pursue Vedantic knowledge because, finally, Vedanta is not to do much with the thought process or the intellect. It is something far beyond that. The state of pure awareness, it's not that you have to understand it. Realization in Vedanta is of the nature of being and becoming. It is not objective knowledge. So it does not come within the purview of thought. It is far beyond thought. So in order to know it, the simple required is to be open to reality from within. You don't have to be a great intellectual or a master of all the scriptures. You just have to be pure enough to intuit things as they are. And that is why it far goes beyond the normally functioning mind. That is why it is called transcending the mind. The nature of pure awareness is like that. Awareness is so fundamental to our experience that we just miss it out. Please see this. We have given so much importance to thought and emotion because that constitutes our mental life. But because you are aware fundamentally, you are thinking, you are emoting, you have a will, you are capable of action because fundamentally you are aware from within. Awareness is the very base of everything. But we miss out this point because of our overcrowded mind, overactive mind, the intensity of our thought process, our deep involvement with it. So we miss out the basic facts of Vedanta. That is why the initial insistence is on self-control. Stop the mind a bit, regulate the thought process a bit, and step by step you can dive into this knowledge, which is so obvious, it is ever there. It is never absent. Mind can be absent. Mind can be shut down, but the self is never absent. Because it is always there, there is a way to go into it. There is a way to become it. Knowledge here is being and becoming. So this becomes a possibility if the mind is trained with these qualities which we are discussing. That's why they are the foundation of the Vedantic life. And then the last point, the 4 points were viveka, vairagya, shat, and last one is mumukshutvam, or the desire for liberation. Now, most people do not understand what this means. Liberation from what? If you felt bondage, you would want liberation. Isn't it? It's pretty obvious. If you don't feel the reality of bondage, how will you ever want liberation? Please see this. Most minds do not feel the reality of bondage. They just want adjustments in that bondage to get a little more comfort, a little more, you can say, sukham, happiness at the mental level. But they don't want freedom, as the word is used in Vedanta. So, mumukshutvam itself is a rare quality. Unless you perceive your bondage at every level, the urge to get out of it will not come. And how do I perceive this bondage? How do I understand what bondage means? My inability to get out of my compulsiveness mentally. My inability to get out of my conditioning mentally. At least this level of bondage, I should be able to feel. Isn't it? Many of us, when we are asking for peace of mind, it is because we understand my mind is not functioning the way it should. I am so compulsive. And I am so impulsive also. And whatever is happening in my mind is determined by the outside. Somebody's words, somebody's idea about me, somebody's actions. My mind is working according to the external. So this is a huge bondage. By myself, when I turn within myself, I see nothing, just darkness. So that is why the mind is turned outward in a sense. Paranchikhani vyathrunat swayambhu tasmat param pashyati nantaratman. The Upanishad says, which means to say, the mind is, as it were, turned outward, feeding upon objects in the outer world. But kaschid dhira pratyagatmanamaikshat avritta chakshu amritatva vichan. But some person of a very steady intellect, what did he do? He turned this mind inward in order to achieve immortality, in order to get the knowledge of the Atman. So it is possible to purify this mind and turn it inward, to understand the level of bondage we are in, so that the urge for liberation comes into us. Naturally, spontaneously. Once you understand bondage, liberation will be part of your mind. The urge, the need for liberation, the need to be free will naturally come. But if you are comfortable with your bondage, mumukshutvam will not be there. You will be comfortable with the content of your mind. So there's no question of trying to transcend mind or penetrate into pure awareness. That will not come. So that is why all of these disciplines have to be practiced continuously for many years before Vedanta becomes not just a possibility but a reality. There's a distance between a possibility and a reality. A possibility becomes a reality if you are prepared. And this preparation requires this fourfold discipline. You know, when we enter our monasteries and nunneries, our ashrams, we are not given Upadesh straight away, Vedanta straight away. For many years, we have to do a lot of selfless work, karma yoga. All these disciplines are insisted upon. And gradually, we are taken deep into this. So this is compulsory for every mind. If you just look at your mind at present, you will understand the need for these disciplines. A strong sense of viveka, deep inner vairagya. Vairagya is not at all about wearing a particular cloth or doing sadhana in a particular place. It is about a deep inner longing for the truth about myself, the truth about the reality of this universe. It is inbuilt within you, just now covered up by the contents of your mind. So uncovering it and bringing forth this inner detachment from a mere life in the senses or in a mere life in uncultivated thought, and diving deep into the heart of our being. And this shat sampat, the 6 treasures most precious for the spiritual aspirant, cultivating shama, dama, uparati, titiksha, shraddha, samadhana. So just looking at a spiritual aspirant, you know, he's all for this. Completely awakened to the truth about the human life and the fallacy about the human life. He knows how one can bind oneself down and how one can free oneself. This maturity has come through the practice of these disciplines. And mumukshutva is not practiced, it just happens when you understand the nature of bondage. That is why bondage is to be felt. Bondage is to be experienced. The sorrow of being so compulsive, so bound down by one's conditionings, by one's emotions, by one's negativities, this is to be felt. In some measure, everybody feels this bondage. Please see this, suicides. When they want to kill themselves, where do they shoot? They shoot here. They want this thing to stop. They want the mind to stop. They want silence there. They want peace first. So the idea is this: you are not comfortable with your bondage, but you have not analyzed it. To feel the sorrow ingrained in that bondage, innate in that bondage, is to start desiring for liberation. That's why you see, Lord Buddha said this, that this is the first great noble truth, that the world is full of sorrow. It is in order to get out of that sorrow that we are doing all that we are doing. Vedanta tells us, but at the core of your personality is the very source of happiness. Just prepare your mind and dive into that, and you will arrive at that. So these are disciplines which are absolutely insisted upon before we enter into Vedanta.